BlackRock is owning you like a dog, your future, your children's future, and the government will fake a false flag to justify a world war in which you will be cannon fodder to die for their interests and their capital markets investments. Have I come in too strong? Okay, let me try again. So, BlackRock is a mega corporation that is owned by this guy, Larry Fink, who is exactly what you think he is. And these other two, Susan Wagner and Robert Capito, who are exactly what your gut tells you they are. So, what does BlackRock actually do? Well, they are an asset management mega corporation. What is asset management, you might ask? The practice of increasing total wealth over time by acquiring, maintaining, and trading investments that have the potential to grow in value in the future. So basically, gambling for nerds. But instead of having an addiction like this type of gamblers, like, oh, come on, I feel it, I'm on a roll, baby. They say things like, actually, the stock markets are about to grow exponentially this summer. Oh my god, how do you actually see with this shit? Anyway, basically gambling for nerds. You might ask yourselves, how big is BlackRock? Well, their official assets under management are at $10 trillion. I repeat, $10 trillion. To put into perspective, Japan has the third largest GDP in the world, and that is $4.2 trillion. China has $18 trillion and USA $26 trillion. If I'm not mistaken, that would make BlackRock the third country with the highest GDP. You have to realize that if they want to start a world war, they can finance a world war, and most likely they will fund both sides of the conflict. Like they always do. So, who is Larry Fink? Well, he's a big shot money wizard that earned $1 billion for the first Boston bank in his 30s. At that time, and at that stage in his career, it was a really big deal. Later, he was humiliated because he gambled too much money on the stock exchange and lost $100 million for the first Boston bank. In 1986, he quits, meets with this other guy, the owner of Blackstone, Steve Schwarzman. Brother helps brother, am I right? Boy, you guys are not helping with your stereotype. Dwells into venture markets more, gambles more, and wins billions for BlackRock. In 1994, the Federal Reserve knocks on his door. Oh look, the Rothschilds, helping out their brothers in foreskin. Larry was asked to help the Federal Reserve prop up the entire corporate bond market by purchasing on the central bank's behalf. They contracted BlackRock to strategically help them with purchasing of commercial mortgage-backed securities and corporate bonds. So what did BlackRock get in return? $48 million per year, that's basically pennies for them, unlimited social credit, power, and influence. Basically total immunity. Remember kids, when you become so wealthy that money can no longer buy you anything that you crave, you begin to crave power and control. Man, no wonder the Bible says that money is the root of all evil. And here comes the ESG and DEI scores, set of course by the United Nations upon the corporate world with the help of BlackRock and Larry Fink's bribing, lobbying. So what does ESG stand for? Environment, social and governance. Basically a stamp of approval that you are making environmental friendly products or practices for your company. The higher your ESG score, the more BlackRock and the United Nations are willing to help you with your startup company or to invest in your already existing company. And you know what the funny thing about it is? BlackRock is the largest investor in fossil fuels and deforestation by far in the world. Don't believe me? Check out the data. So they want you to consume less meat and consume less fuel while they are pumping trillions of dollars into the fossil fuel production, and also they are cutting down millions of trees every year. You know, trees, the very thing that produce the very oxygen that we breathe. And consequentially, they are rising the global CO2 levels that they are so vehemently demonizing for the rise in global warming that they are producing. But you know what? You, the pleb that watches my video, you must be taxed into oblivion because you are the ones that have the most CO2 emissions, not them that travel with their private jets and consume more fuel in one flight than you consume in 2 years. You see the titanic and colossal hypocrisy of BlackRock and Larry Finkelstein? What about the DEI score? Well, it stands for, and I'll have to brace myself from not shitting my pants. Get this. Diversity, equity, and inclusion score. Basically, a score set by the United Nations and BlackRock that determines how inclusive and diverse and equal your workplace is. Basically, the more brown people, the more LGBT people you have in your company, and the more equal the salaries are, the more likely that the United Nations and BlackRock would support your business. Basically, the less white, the less masculine, then the less efficient your company is, you will get virtually zero money from BlackRock and the United Nations. This is basically corporate communism that is also gay and multicultural. Bro, the book of Revelations is more relevant now than ever. You thought the mark of the beast is a little needle into your arm and a green pass? Oh, no, my brother in Christ. The mark of the beast is the ESG and DEI score. We truly live in the end times. This is basically corporate global Sodom and Gomorrah. Bro, that's a sentence I never thought it could be uttered. Especially by me. May you live in interesting times. Chinese proverb. Oh, and also speaking of China, BlackRock, while he's pushing for renewable energy and electric cars for the Western world, while India and China are the largest emitters of CO2 by far in the world, guess who is the #1 owner of 90% of all the minerals, cobalt, and all the components for electric cars in the world? You guessed it! China! China! It's almost like BlackRock is subverting the West from within, while China will benefit from it. Either Xi Jinping is pulling the strings of BlackRock, or Larry Fink is a Trojan horse for USA and the Western world in general. If you guys only watched Europa and read those books, we probably wouldn't be in this mess right now. Now let's analyze Larry Finkelberg's annual public letter to investors from 2024, and here we will see what he actually thinks about you and the future of the world in general. Part 1 of the letter. Time to rethink retirement. Ooh, this is gonna be a spicy one. Larry says that he met with government officials and heads of the state from all around the world and notices that governments around the Western world have a problem with the decline in population and how they don't have enough money to retire because there are fewer taxpayers to fund their pensions when they will eventually retire. This is a reason why many governments around the Western world are bringing millions of immigrants from Africa, Middle East, and Asia. And also demographical replacement, but I digress. Check out this other video I made on this specific topic after you watch this video, of course. So, what is Larry's solution for the problem? Raise the retirement age and that'll do it! So basically, you will retire at the age of 90 years old and BlackRock will manage your retirement money and they will tell you how to spend your retirement money. What a beautiful life to live, don't you agree? Part 2 of the letter. Capital markets. Larry says that is not only necessary to invest in capital markets, the same stocks that he manages, but is the only way to save money for retirement and also to build ESG infrastructure. Basically, to fund their dystopian plan that BlackRock and the United Nations have for the Agenda 2030, where they want to get rid of paper money and gold and to implement CBDC. That stands for Central Banking Digital Currency. You will own nothing, live in the pod, eat the bug, retire at 90 years old, and you will be happy. What a beautiful life to live, am I right? In part 3 of the letter, Larry says that machines will replace humans. Let's check out this video where he speaks at the World Economic Forum. Imagine my shock.
If you forecast out the transformation that we're going to see across all societies because of AI, robotics, sensor technology, the speed in which this change is going to occur, I could argue in the developed countries, the big winners are countries that have shrinking populations. Okay, that's something that most people never talked about. You know, we always used to think shrinking population is a cause for negative growth. But in my conversations with the leadership of these large developed countries that have xenophobic immigration policies, they don't allow anybody to come in, shrinking demographics, these countries will rapidly develop robotics and AI and technology. And if the promise, I didn't say it's going to happen, but if the promise of all that transforms productivity, which most of us think it will, we'll be able to elevate the standard of living of countries and the standard of living of individuals, even with shrinking populations. And so the paradigm of negative population growth is going to be changing. And the social problems that one will have in substituting humans for machines is going to be far easier in those countries that have declining populations.
Now you see how they see you? They see you like cattle, like replaceable equipment. You see how they see you? Yes, you, the idiot that's watching my video right now. Well, I personally don't think you're an idiot. On the contrary, I think you're very smart. I mean, you watched this video up until now, and I thank you for it. But this is how they see you. It's almost like the declining population is exactly what Larry Fink wants. I mean, think about it. It is ESG friendly. Fewer people means less carbon emissions, right? Can you see the diabolical patterns yet? In the fourth part of the letter, Larry says that the future of infrastructure is ESG infrastructure realized by governments in collaboration with private corporations. Yeah, basically what has been happening for the past 100 years, only now BlackRock will own your government and they will make everything environmental friendly. He further says that this partnership is the only way governments governments can fund infrastructure spending that is environmental friendly because governments have too much debt to do it alone. And he also says that is a third way to reduce debt besides cutting taxes for the rich and cutting spending. And that is, of course, drumroll, print more money! Man, I swear, this idiot combined Keynesian economics with Milton Friedman's extreme free market ideology. Oh my god, this retard combined two extreme ends of economics of two other idiots like himself. Of course, and this is how it will grow the economy, by investing in renewable energy, aka unreliable energy. Basically, pumping more money into economy by printing more money and at the same time growing inflation, rendering your money worthless. Either Larry Fink is a total retard, or he's one of the most genius, diabolical masterminds to destroy the West that ever existed. I think it's the latter. The best argument against ESG is Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka had the highest ESG score out of all countries. And we all know how Sri Lanka collapsed in 2019. And is still perhaps the worst country to live in, besides Palestine, of course. You might say it was because the Russo-Ukrainian war, because they cut their grains with Russia and Ukraine, or it was because of the 2019 Easter bombings, or because of corruption, or because they printed more money. No. It was because the mega corporations left the country. Also, BlackRock has bought almost all single-family homes in USA to which they rent to poor people, students, and single mothers. And people wonder why housing is so expensive and wonder why people can't afford housing. Because the wages are below the inflation line and they can't keep up with the prices. And you know what? I don't even care where you fall on the political spectrum. Property tax is extortion. Renting houses for the plebs is extortion. I think not Democrats, nor Republicans, or any other political party in the Western world is willing to tackle. Some of you might say that I'm a communist, or some of you might say, oh no, he's a libertarian, or a contrarian for having this type of opinion. And I'm saying to you, stop being stupid, okay? Get your head out of your ass. There are people much more intelligent than you that actually agree with my statement. Hey, appeal to authority. Hey, touché, Geo. You have to realize that BlackRock is owning, or is partially owning, shares in every single major bank in the Western world and in some other places in Asia like Singapore or North Korea. And you know what the funny thing about it is? You are to blame, because if you are invested in the global banking system, you most likely funded BlackRock with your own money. Let's say you took a loan from JP Morgan, for example. You are indirectly funding BlackRock, the mega corporation that is actively destroying the world in collaboration with Western governments. This lovely lady right here made a viral video about BlackRock, and she can tell you more in depth about this specific topic of BlackRock. Side note, BlackRock was the company that was hired by the USA government to bail out the Fortune 500 companies that failed during the 2008 recession, and the same companies that failed during the 2020 COVID pandemic. And also on this topic, Larry notes that he was one of the people who played a huge role in creating mortgage-backed securities. You know, the very thing that caused the 2008 financial crisis. BlackRock, together with Vanguard and State Street, own 88% of all the assets of all Fortune 500 companies. I repeat, 88% of all assets of all the Fortune 500 companies. You realize how much influence is that? So now it's time to delve deeper into Larry Fink's personality, and what he believes. For us to know more about him, let's see his background. Larry majored in political science at the University of California, so he's not a finance guy. How did he break the Enigma code and got so rich? Luck, of course, like all the speculative assets managers. It's all luck at the end of the day. Don't get me with the bullshit that, it's actually research and algorithms and calculations. Shut the fuck up, nerd. You know nothing about how this works. To see how much of a megalomaniac this guy is, let's hear this direct quote from him. This might sound trite, but it's really important for me to be perceived as a good human being, a caring individual who always comes across as real and unpretentious. And one thing I tell everybody is that I'm the same turd that I was 30 years ago. Oh dear Larry, don't be so hard on yourself. You are not the same turd you were 30 years ago. You are the biggest piece of shit of the century. You have to realize that this guy is so out of touch with reality, with how people perceive him, with how people live their lives, with how the actual demand of the markets are, and so out of touch with human nature in general. Most people don't want your pipe dream utopia, Larry. Most people just want to be left alone and live on their own terms. But you wouldn't know that since you are the biggest megalomaniac, narcissistic, self-important, self-absorbed, arrogant, and stupid puddle of diarrhea of the 21st century. Oh, and side note, you base, trad, red-blooded Americans that are voting for Trump this year, you know who he's considering for the position of Chief Secretary of the United States Federal Reserve Treasury? Larry fucking Fink! Imagine that! No wonder he pandered to the LGBT agenda and got this rabbi puppet as his vice president. Sorry, magatards. Your hero is a Zog establishment puppet. Oh yeah, draining the swamp. Just like this cackling hag. So, Larry, if by any chance you are watching this video, I have a message for you. Dear Larry, do a gamer rage quit out of life, okay? I can't say the S word or the K word because YouTube will likely delete this video because it's a corporate sanitized corporation! At least I can say fuck once in a while. So, how can we actually combat this colossal behemoth that is BlackRock and all the cronies like Fink, Soros, and Gates? Well...
Kill them all! Bash their baby skulls onto the fucking pavement so that they can never take revenge upon you! Erase their bloodline!
Okay, I got a little carried away with this joke. Okay, Neil? Joke! Now, let's talk a little more seriously now. You have to realize that there are certain groups of people that want your genes to be extinct, to achieve total global dominance. You have to realize that this experiment of multiculturalism, globalism, consumerism, crony capitalism is going to burst at some point in the near future, and you have to be prepared when the collapse will eventually happen. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. First of all, if you own assets in the stock markets, cash out. Literally, cash out. Doesn't matter if you win or lose, soon you will have nothing if you hold too much onto them. If you have a slight deficiency or a slight physical handicap, don't come at me with the moral high ground. You don't owe your government anything. Hop on welfare. Get on welfare. You don't owe your government anything. Alright? Be a burden for your government. Be a burden for the system. Be a clog in the system. Fuck the system. You don't owe your butt buddies that you trade stocks with anything. You don't owe any reparations to any particular group. What matters is your family, your tribe, your parents, your countrymen, honoring God, and your health. That's it. If you truly want to invest in something tangible, like gold, real physical gold, paintings, musical instruments, even paper money. Anything is better than digital currency or stock markets. And if you are really smart, invest in water pumps, invest in canned food, buy land, real physical land, and of course, this type of stuff. Because a massive collapse is really close. And very importantly, build small communities with like-minded individuals. I don't want to sound like a nut job or a prepper or an alarmist, but the shit is about to hit the fan really soon. And we will prove to the likes of Larry Fink, George Soros, Bill Gates, and all these out-of-touch stupid snobs that we are not obsolete and we won't go out without a fight.